How's it going, guys? Today we've got some Akali gameplay. Now Akali is a champion that's very popular ever since she had her rework a few years ago. She's a champion that can exert quite a lot of early pressure, especially for an assassin. She's a champion that's very strong after 1 or 2 items. She's very strong when she gets her ultimate. She can impact the side lanes with a lot of force. She's very good in these early fights, early skirmishes, early objective fights, that kind of thing. The downside with Akali is, firstly, she requires quite heavily on snowballing. Primarily because she needs to be able to kill her target and then get out. So if she can't kill her target quickly, the champion is a lot less useful than the likes of a mage. She's also not the best late game champion, and she's not the best team fighter because she can be very easily countered by these kind of like heavy crowd control, heavy organized kind of teams. But let's see how we can help this guy out. Oh, one final point actually. Yes, Akali, Akali is a very actual difficult champion to play. She's very mechanically intensive. She requires a lot of games, a lot of practice, and a very high amount of game knowledge in order to play her to the level that she's supposed to be played at. The thing is, yeah, she's probably League of Legends' most difficult champion, at least from a mechanical point of view. And from a decision-making point of view, yeah, she's also up there, because these assassins are very vulnerable. So we got our guy Sandwiches here. He's a gold elo player. Says he's more of an Akali main, so let's just see what we can do to try and help this guy out a little bit. I will notice, one thing we noticed so far is actually our guy Sandwiches here, his team doesn't actually have a jungler, so they've gone for like a Lux Vayne bot lane, they've also got double Baron lane. That's a bit odd. Well, in fact, it's extremely odd. Don't do this, guys. I'm sure these guys were arguing over, who doesn't want to go jungle, but, jungle's probably the most important role in the game. Because you have so much priority on these objectives. Okay, this ward here, we have to talk about this ward for a little moment. Now, this ward is very good at stopping invades. The problem is, even if Tryndamere invades, you can't really do anything about it. The main reason is, you have no jungler. So, you can't stop him from taking these camps. He's going to take these camps. It would be better to keep this ward for a moment where you can actually get the push and try and use it. So, let's see what happens. Like I say, you spot out Tryndamere, but you kind of know where he is anyway, and even if he does invade, what can happen? Okay, good training on Teemo at level 1 here, bearing in mind that Teemo does have a blind, so it's one thing to be careful of. A blind can obviously stop your auto attack, so you'll do less damage, but it's good that you harassed him. Okay, so you get a push, you get the early level 2. Now this would be a good time to place that ward, you see, right? Just to pause for a moment here. So Tryndamere is most likely going to be starting here. I mean, because you placed that ward, you know that he is starting there. But traditionally, if you get the push like this, it's good to place a ward here around the raptor camps. The reason for this is if you spot out Tryndamere, it kind of gives information to your entire team of where Tryndamere is likely to go for the next few minutes. So if you spot him here, you know that most likely he's going to take a route like this and go down and maybe pressure this crab and attack Baron lane here. But of course, if the raptors are actually still up after you place this ward, then you can infer that either Tryndamere is here or is somewhere in this region. So it's good to save your ward until an opportune moment. So if you get the push like this, also Teemo doesn't know that you've placed that ward in such a situation, so it actually benefits your team. Yeah, see what happens here. Okay, gonna get this. Yeah, Tryndamere appears and he got first blood. So that ward did end up spotting him out, so you can assume that he's doing Skull Crab. Okay, that was a bit of a waste of time there, I think you missed out on 3 minions because you were just stood by the cramp. Okay, right. Okay, I'll explain what's kind of going on here. Okay, mate. A few things to address here. Let's just go back a moment. So, approaching this fight. So we'll ignore this part for a moment. Let's just think about the approach to this fight for a moment. So, you missed out on a few minions. Like, yes, you got the level 3. You're level 3, Teemo's level 3. Firstly, you're about to engage on Teemo. He has 3 minions, including a cannon minion. You just have 1. So already he's at a damage advantage here. Secondly, you just saw Tryndamere on the map. Now he cleared out your ward, he's taken the crab, but Tryndamere could be in this bush, and at the moment, you know, it's too risky to fight because if Tryndamere just appears here, you actually run the risk of just dying. Secondly, Teemo used his blind, so it's not a good idea to start a fight while Teemo has his blind up because it just reduces your DPS. I mean, it ended up working out in this case. But I think against a better Teemo, he would just counter you for using this. You know, he would wait until you're looking for that auto attack, and then he would use your blind to massively decrease your DPS. So you take quite a lot of minion damage here, you take the ignite, you get some good damage off on Teemo and get the kill. Also, don't go barrier in this case, I think, with Akali, because she's so reliant on these kind of early game snowballs. It's very important that you get a kill as soon as possible, so ignite is just generally more useful than barrier in this case. Very good wave management though, I have to say. So you recalled there with the wave actually building up and pushing into you. So what this means is you won't actually lose any minions because, you know, his minions, he has so many more minions than you do that they will actually kill your minions very quickly without receiving much damage themselves. So this is what you would call a slow push. So you've kind of like set up a slow push so that it's coming back into you. Now the best way to apply the kind of advantage that you can get here is what I would like to see you do is actually set up a freeze. So this wave is pushing into you, you have all these minions to collect. What you can do is you can take off maybe 2, 3, 4 of these minions and just set it up so that the wave is stuck in this position. And then what you can do when that happens is you can stand here and go in to try and harass Teemo whenever he comes up to try and take minions. Freezing is a very, very useful strategy. It's also a very fundamental aspect about League of Legends, but it can just give you so many advantages in the lane because what you're essentially doing when you're freezing is you are saying, I can pressure you more than you can pressure me, and also if you don't try and break this freeze, if you don't try and pressure me, I will end up giving myself an increased chance of killing you because you have to pull Teemo all the way over to this area here, which is actually very risky, although you don't have a jungler, so in this case it's maybe not as useful. But also it allows you, because you're actually a stronger duelist, it gives you more kind of agency to threaten Teemo away from the minions. So if you have control of the wave, you essentially get to dictate when it is that you can take trades, and it also means that if your wave position is here, you know, you're safe from Tryndamere. Now Tryndamere could be anywhere in this area, so if you keep the wave in a good position for you, it means that you can farm safely and you can also deny minions from the enemy team. Yeah, this fight is bad. Like I say, you're engaging into 5 minions here and you don't know. Yeah, there you go. You see, we had no idea of where Tryndamere is. That's a big issue. Okay. Now, I have to talk about this. You see, you got the first kill in this lane, which is very, very good. Very well done for that. It shouldn't have happened. I think Teemo should have killed you in that situation, but the fact that he didn't is great. So if you're in this position now, right, you got to think to yourself, I've got a lane advantage. Our team does not have a jungler. So that means in the mid and late game, we're actually very significantly disadvantaged because when it comes to things like a Baron fight or a Dragon fight or an Elder Dragon fight, we don't have the smite. So because we don't have a jungler, you know, it's much, much more difficult for us to try and contest these very important objectives. So, the way in which you can improve your chances of winning this game is you have to ask yourself, what can I do individually to make up for the fact that we don't have a jungler? Well, the obvious answer is just a hard carry. So for you to hard carry, you need to make sure your decision making is perfect. You're not allowed to make any mistakes because your team is already at a disadvantage by not having a jungler. So what you would see a very, very good Akali player do is in these situations, they would just make sure that they are always individually strong and they need to be in such a position so that they can influence the side lanes and influence the rest of the map to make up for the fact that you just don't have this jungler. So if you just take a risky, you take a risky engage like this, the downside is you give up all of your lane pressure and you're also potentially giving your tower over to the enemy team here. I mean, if not, you're giving them over a lot of gold. Like, they took a turret plate, you lost all these minions. This is just, it's really not beneficial to your situation. When you don't have a jungler, you need to play extra perfect because, like I say, the game is already at a disadvantage for you. Now, as a mid laner, there's a topic here that we need to address. So after the lane has been pushed in, right? Very typical strategy that you'll see as you play League of Legends. The enemy team has pushed their lane into your tower. Now what that means is they can now go around the map, create pressure without really losing any gold. Now what I mean by this is because Teemo has pushed his wave, his minions here, right? Your tower will actually kill the minions that you need to get. These minions here will bundle up and slowly push back into Teemo's tower. Now that gives him about 30 seconds to a minute, or maybe even more depending on what you do with the wave, to actually go and influence other parts of the map. Now this influence could be, at the most basic level, it could be warding to see where the enemy jungler is, but you know you don't have a jungler, or he could be pressuring the other lanes. So what I would expect this Teemo to do right now is actually to just follow Tryndamere and go for your overextending bot lane. And all this kind of happened because you died like a minute ago, you see. So because you died, you got rid of lane control. Okay, this is even worse now. So sorry. To finish my point, because you died, you gave over control of the wave to the enemy team, and they decided to take that advantage and then take two people up to Dragon Lane here. So this is a 4 versus 2, which is a very good move by the enemy to exert as much pressure as possible. But even more so than that, you can see the minimap that there's 4 people here. You pushed your lane in, you should not be recalling right now. You should be going to help these guys because, like I say, Akali is very dependent on these early snowballs. She needs to get kills and gold as fast as possible so that she can actually kind of take over the game. Akali is one of these type of champions where you need to be the one who decides what happens in the game. You need to be the carry. You need to be going these side lanes. You need to be helping your team, killing people as much as possible, taking towers and pressuring the enemy team. You're not going to pressure the enemy team much by pushing in and recalling. You know, if you're playing like a hyper-scaling champion, like perhaps a Kai'Sa or a Vayne or any kind of AD carry, or like an Azir, whenever he comes out to Wild Rift, this wouldn't be as bad, but you're playing a champion that relies on this early snowballing, so this is incredibly huge. You need to join these big fights when you're playing Akali. Like, as soon as you see a Tryndamere on the map, you should just move over and try and get some kind of kill, whatever you can. This is very important. Also a message from me, shout out to me. Okay, oh actually this might look very bad. They might actually get the tower from this. If they get the tower, then this game just goes way faster because the dragon will be coming up soon in about 30 seconds. Yeah, you need to go. You need to go to Dragon Lane, man. You can't just sit in mid lane now. You're not going to win the game by taking these minions. Not in this situation, because you guys don't win the late game, so you have to win from the early. Okay, yeah. There's a few things that I think you could work on here. Just early game decision making, because this is so important to have as much of an impact in the early game as possible with this kind of champion. Like, you just know for a fact they're going to be doing Infernal Dragon now. Like, you getting these minions is fine, it's giving you gold, quite a lot of gold, but you would get more gold and more pressure by killing the enemy team. That is what Akali is for. She's all about the early pressure. She's all about helping out the side lanes. This is your game plan. I talk in other videos about how champions want to kind of, you know, play safe, take trades when they can, go for the late game, etc. With you, it's all about the early game, all about early pressure. Very important, my friend. But they've took the first tower. That gives a big gold injection for them, and I would expect these guys to just go straight for the Infernal Dragon. That's what I would be doing. But as for you right now, you know, this game's looking quite bad, but you can just look to... You can try and, like... Okay, Teemo mushrooms, they're always kind of annoying. You can try and look for like enemy disorganization around the dragon fight, you know. It'd be useful to see, okay, maybe place a ward down there. Place a ward, see if you can just catch a member who's out of position and try and find some way to get kills. Yeah, you don't need to recall again. Like I say, you're kind of on a timer when you play Akali. It's like, let's say you have 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes with Akali to do the things that you need to do. And even faster in this game because there's no jungler. So if you're recalling like this, you know, it's not achieving anything. It really isn't. Like, you're trying to scale here, but you don't need to scale with Akali. You really don't. It's all about impact now, as fast as possible. Good damage on Tryndamere, but you know, even though you damage Tryndamere here, it's not helping. Like, right now, your team's getting engaged upon over here. Like, it doesn't matter about these minions, right? Like, yeah, they could go into your tower. You can miss out on these minions, but what you're going to lose out on is pressure and experience. Like, you need to help your team here. To be honest, are already tilted to oblivion. But I know maybe you're already tilted because you realise that, yes, you don't have a jungler, so you're probably going to be thinking, oh man, you know, this game's doomed. So I can sympathise with that, but you need to take any opportunity you can. Okay, you could outplay this. You can outplay this if you're careful. Okay, Two things here, right? Firstly, your shroud actually gives you energy, so you don't need to use your shroud when you're on full energy. Secondly, your shroud is a very good safety tool, and it's also very good for creating kind of confusion in the enemy team. Putting the shroud here doesn't accomplish anything. I mean, it makes you invisible, yeah, but, you know, who cares? It doesn't do anything. These guys are just going to walk away. And also, you know, quite obviously, you missed your shuriken there. It would have made more sense for you to engage on Teemo with your ultimate and then pop your shroud so that you're in the face of the enemy team, and then you can actually cause havoc, you know, using your first ability, going back into stealth, and then doing these kind of things. But you just got to make sure that you stay away from Alistar, because Alistar is very difficult for you to, you know, when Alistar is in the game, it's very difficult for you to do the things you want to do, because he's just such a good disengage type champion. Very strong peeling champion, Alistar. But let's see what happens. So you don't have your E and you don't have your W. I'm going to use League of Legends terminology because, you know, that's what I'm more familiar with. Okay, you missed the first ability there, so you haven't actually hit anything yet. It's still possible to win this fight. It's still possible for you to outplay these guys. I can see the play, but it requires quite a high amount of mechanical skill. Okay, Alistar has used his pulverize. Watch out for the stun. Okay. Yeah, I don't think you have the health right now to actually outplay this. Best to just run away. 2 flashes. Okay, yeah. Okay, I think that was just a mechanical error. There was an outplay potential there. There was the potential for outplay. Like, I would recommend looking up some, like, Akali combos on YouTube. Like, trying to follow some kind of very well-known Akali players. You can watch the likes of people like Showmaker. He's a fantastic Akali player. Or if you like some European players, you can look for maybe Humanoid or Caps. All these guys are very, very strong Akali mechanics. You know, you can watch League of Legends PC because the exact same concepts apply to Wild Rift. Like, you're playing the same champion, so, you know, just learn from these guys. What you want to be doing now is pushing this wave and then moving to a side lane, because you don't have any vision, so it's kind of risky just standing here. Like, Alistar could just jump on you right now. Okay, careful. Now, one thing I've got to address here, right, guys? When you're in these kind of mid-game situations, I'm going to call it the mid-game because we've lost towers and dragons, so, you know, for all intents and purposes, this is basically the mid-game. So let's look at the map right now. Our Zed is in Baron Lane, sorry. We have 4 people here, so we don't know where the enemy team is. We have to assume that the whole enemy team is anywhere in this area, so what we're kind of doing is inviting a 4v5, because our Zed is here. We know he can't join that fight, but we have to assume that all of the enemy team can join the fight. So if you're standing here like this right in the open, not only are you vulnerable because, well, there's no vision, so the enemy team could flank at any moment, we also have to assume that the whole enemy team is here, and we know our Zed is in Baron Lane. So this is very risky. I wouldn't recommend just standing here, you know. Yeah, and just like that, Darius is here. Very, very obviously. So this fight is a 4 versus 5, and I don't see any way in which you guys can win. Especially because you're already 4,000 gold behind. Yeah, that's just bad positioning. I mean, like I say, when you're in these positions, right, you're inviting a 4 versus 5 for the enemy. If you can win and you know you can win, then fair enough, it's not so bad. But there's no way you could win that fight. Even if it was a 5 versus 5, I dare say you probably wouldn't win it unless the enemy team made a big mistake. So, in these kind of positions, right, guys, these positions where you're behind and these positions where you kind of don't know what to do and probably tilted, what you should do right now, perfect opportunity, right? Side laning. Very important League of Legends concept, especially for a mid laner and especially for Akali, who's a very powerful side lane champion. Now, the whole concept of side laning is quite simple. Champions that can't push very quickly, or should I say champions that are very vulnerable if they're out in a side lane, so champions like Vayne, you should send them mid lane. Vayne's in mid lane, right? She can take all the farm in mid lane quite easily. So safely, I should say, because if Vayne was to go here, well, she's very vulnerable, you know, she could get attacked by any member of the enemy team. Now, a champion like Akali, she's very good in the side lane because she can escape quite easily, and she's also a very strong duelist. So even if somebody comes, they would have to send at least 2 people to try and kill you. So then you can either outplay them, or you can try and look for a kill, escape, or what would normally happen is if the enemy team sends 2 or 3 people to fight you, then your team can go and get towers around the other side of the map. So the idea of side laning is you're creating pressure by going to the side lanes and forcing the enemy team to respond either to your pressure or from the pushing waves. And while Okay guys, sorry about that, a little bit of technical difficulty. So yeah, as I was saying, the whole concept of side lane is about you going to the side lane and translate pressure to force the enemy to respond to that. And also, furthermore with Akali, I suppose I should add, with Akali, she's very good at flanking. She's not good at these kind of like face-to-face, as you would say, like a front-to-back type team fight situations where the enemy team has like full visibility of where she is. So what you should have done really as you respawned is if you go to Dragon Lane, you can take all this farm, you can push it into the tower. Now, while you're doing that, you can put vision in the enemy jungle, you can put vision here, you could take the tower, or you could group with your team and then look for an advantageous position, which you can like access the backline. So for example, you could easily kill Jhin without being so visible to the enemy team. So one of the main like kind of identities, I suppose, or rather one of the main kind of ways in which Akali wants to approach a fight is from the flank, and is to kind of instill as much confusion and disruption in the enemy team as possible. But if you're kind of very visible and you know, just in the center of the lane like this, it's too easy for the enemy to counter because they can just see where you are, you know. You need to be kind of sneaky with Akali. You need to look for these flanking positions if you want to exert as much kind of force, as much pressure, and maximize your chances of winning the game. It's good that you bought a sweeper, you know, it gets rid of Teemo mushrooms. Very good, useful tip for people. I would recommend that. It's not a good idea to engage on an Alistar with ultimate because he gets like a 70% damage reduction or something like that. And also, yeah, it meant that you had to flash. Like I say, fighting without vision and fighting with Vayne in top lane there, it's just not too necessary. Baron lane, sorry. I prefer the League of Legends terminology. And here's Tryndamere. But yeah, just try and take fights that you know you have an advantage in, guys. This situation, like, yeah, you know, it's good to show off mechanics and things like that, but it's just very unlikely that you're going to win these kind of fights. You don't have vision, your team's not grouped up, and you have a Vayne in Baron lane. You know, it's just not going to happen. But you know, maybe you're tilted, maybe you feel like you have to pressure the map as much as possible, so I can respect that. But yeah. Just these fights are just not going to win, so just don't do them. It's that simple. The shame about this game though, shame about the lack of a jungler. I hope this doesn't happen too often. But you know, there are a few things you could have done to improve your chance of winning this game, which I'll go over a bit towards the end. No need to engage on this guy. Okay. I didn't actually see the Vayne there, fair enough. Okay, so if you guys can get a kill here, you might actually be able to get Baron, even though you don't have a jungler. I think you could have gone in for that fight. I think there's more you could have done. It's kind of funny, it's like the fights that I think you should be taking, you're not taking. Maybe because you don't have ultimate, although you used it there. And then obviously the fights that you shouldn't take, you do. Okay. Let's, everybody gets one. Everybody gets one fail, it's okay. Yeah, there's no way to outplay this, I think you're just dead. I suppose by this point, you know, the game's already really quite over, so it's difficult to really say what you should do to kind of win in this situation other than really general tips. Like, I mean, these fights are kind of unnecessary because, you know, you're not fighting over any kind of objective, it's just random jungle fights. Like, if the enemy team kills you, they're not going to get anything. If you kill them, again, you're not really going to get too much. At this stage, because you're so far behind, it's best to fight around it's best to fight around a tower. Or, you know, if you absolutely have to, fight around Baron, because if they take Baron, chances are they'll just end the game straight away. Yes. The importance of warding, guys. Another thing, right, there's only like 2 wards on the whole map. So people really aren't warding very much in this game. I don't know, but wow, nice Zigzils. Yeah, man. I think, like I say, I can think you're using your abilities kind of suboptimally, so one thing I definitely would recommend is just finding some, like, really good Akali YouTuber or professional Akali player and just seeing how they play fights. What you'll see that they're doing is they're looking for what champions on the enemy team can actually disable them, what champions can actually stop what they're doing. So for example, Alistar, right? When you decide to engage with a fight of Alistar, you need to know that he's used his pulverize and he's used his headbutt. If he's used then, obviously you have a lot more flexibility in how you can approach this fight. But if you engage when he's not used these abilities, then obviously you can make your life very difficult. This is what the best Akali players look for. That's why she's such a difficult champion, because she requires outstanding mechanics and outstanding game sense and lots of teamfight awareness and lots of reaction times. I would not really recommend Akali to anyone below maybe high Emerald, or maybe Emerald, somewhere around that level, because she does take a very long time and she does require a lot of game experience. But you know, it's good practice. If you want to be an Akali player, that's fine. Just note that it's going to take you 500 games, something like that, in order to generate the correct level of kind of skill that you need to play this champion at the proper level. But yeah, let's just see if there's any kind of big mistakes from the enemy team that we can try and capitalize on. That's always useful. Yeah, there's no need to fight in a jungle like this, guys. Like I said, the enemy team wants to fight you because they're ahead. So if you just go to the jungle, you're just giving them what they want. Fight around towers, fight around objectives, because at least in those situations, you know, you increase your chance of winning. Also, if the enemy team is taking Baron, while they're tanking the Baron, they have like, I think their resistances are reduced quite significantly, so they'll take more damage. So that's why it's always good to fight an enemy team around Baron, because, you know, they'll take more damage, so it increases your chances of actually getting a kill and coming back into the game, or even a Baron steal. It's good that you're going for these mechanical fights. You know, by this point in the game, you might as well just try something, you know. See a guy out of position, just try it, see what happens. Like, yeah, those jungle fights weren't too necessary, but, you know, in this situation right now, not so bad, I guess. I mean, at the very least, right? It's just mechanical practice. This game's basically over. But let's just see. The enemy team could end a lot faster if they wanted to. I mean, it's 16 minutes into the game, right? Just get Baron, just end. Very simple.
Inhibitor turret is under attack. Look up below! The Elder Dragon has spawned.
Good kill on Darius, that's good. Yeah, okay, so you get a kill, you know, that's fine. That's good. Gives you a bit of gold, gets you a bit back into the game. These are what you need to look for, guys. Your chance of winning this game may be extremely low, but you've got to take any small chance you can. Like that, Darius is just out of position. Very easy kill, very safe, get out, all good. This fight you don't need to take. You might feel overconfident, you know, once you get a kill you kind of feel a bit excited, a bit kind of energized, but right here this is not necessary. That's what we would call like an overextension, you know. The chicken's already gone. Not sure what I mean by that analogy. I'll have to think about that one. Anyway, let's see what we can do. No wards on Baron or Dragon. Someone should try and get one of those. It's a shame that we don't have the blue trinket yet in this game. I don't know if they'll ever release that, but it's very useful for scouting these things. Okay, they're going for a Baron. Maybe your team could do something here. You got to stop using your Shroud to engage like that. Like, it's good to use your Shroud aggressively in lane, so you can zone people away from minions. In this situation, your Shroud is your only way of safety. You know, you need to keep that for when you actually need it, to keep yourself alive, to guarantee your safety. Or to put it in the middle of the enemy team and just like make them very confused, because that's a very, very tricky ability. If you just waste it like that, you know, you're not getting the value out of it. Okay, well if you steal this, then it could be good. Very, very good engage by Alistair. Yeah. Yeah, well, it was a good effort. I respect that.
Top turret is under attack.
Mercury treads. Yeah, Mercury treads make sense in this game. I feel like you should probably get a Zhonya's Hourglass, you know, the stasis enchant. I think that's very good on this champion. Very good against hard CC like the Alistair. Gives you more time for your cooldowns to come back, that kind of thing. And also protects against any engages. But yeah, this game's only got 30 seconds, well, a minute left, so let's just see if they make any crazy mistakes that we can talk about. But if not, there's one or two things I'd like to go over just at the end of this VOD, because there's some very, very, very crucial things that we have to address. Yeah, final fight. Let's see what can happen. The enemy team has Dragon. The enemy team has Baron. Chance of winning this game? Probably less than 0.1%. But, you know, let's just go for it. See what happens. Maybe somebody goes AFK. Who knows? Never surrender games when it's in gold, guys. Trust me. People make mistakes all the time. Okay. Well, it was a good effort. Gotta respect that. I don't think there's much more to see here. Yeah, the game's just going to be over. Okay. A few things I want to go through, man. Firstly, there's a few key moments here which kind of like decided the cost of the game, so to speak. Firstly was your warding. So because you used that ward earlier around here, right, it actually denies the protection that you need in the next part of the game. So let's just see for a moment. Okay, Tryndamere comes and clears your ward. But, you know, Tryndamere cleared your ward because he had access to the Scry's Bloom here. Now, if you remember what I said earlier, it's actually possible, after you pushed that wave in, you could have gone over, you could have placed a ward, and you could have took the Scry's Bloom. So this whole play could have been prevented. Now, if that happened, right, you would have had a ward here throughout the next, you know, 1 or 2 minutes or so. So what it actually would have meant was that even after you get this first kill here, you know, and you come back to lane, you would have still had this ward here, and you would have known that Tryndamere was here. However, you know, another thing to address is we should expect Tryndamere to be here anyway, because, you know, why wouldn't he be? Like, your wave's pushing in like this, we don't have vision, so we just got to assume that he's here. Secondly, do not engage into 5 minions, because you will not win this, and you engage when Teemo's blind is up. You know, that means he can just blind you and stop you from doing your kind of like passive auto attacks for free. So there's just no way you're going to win this fight. Like, this is just throwing away your advantage. Like I say with this game, because there's no jungler, every single minor mistake you make, it's like it gets amplified by like 5. So this game is still winnable, but actually at this moment, this is the game losing play. Like, this is the moment where the control of this game went out of your hands, because as we know for the next few minutes, right, they killed you, they pushed your wave into the tower, and then as we watch, they go, you know, they go top lane here. Sorry, I should say they go dragon lane. Like, they go dragon lane, they get 2 kills on your team, and they get the tower, and then following on for that, they get the infernal dragon. Like, after all of this happens, you know, what have you accomplished? Like, you got your first kill, you died, then they got 2 kills in this lane, then they took the tower, then they got the dragon. You know, it's almost like your early game decisions are so important, because as you can see, they have such a very powerful effect in the next few minutes of the game. The game time is not even 4 minutes yet, and already all these things have been like possible, just purely because of some decisions that, if you just considered in a little bit more detail, all could have been prevented. So the best thing here actually would be not to take that fight without placing any vision. You know, maybe you kill Teemo again. You kill Teemo again, then you can be the one that goes to help your team, and you can be the one that goes to get the dragon here. And then, you know, before you know it, you could be 3, 4, 5 kills, and then you're the one that's in position to take control of this game. So yeah, even though this game wasn't particularly winnable, there are things you could have done to improve your chances of actually winning. Because, you know, it's not as if it's a 4 versus 5. A 4 versus 5 is very hard to win. Like, you guys don't have a jungler, but the game is not unwinnable. It just becomes, I don't know, more difficult. Let's just say more difficult. But yeah, so, you know, there's a few things to work on here. I'd recommend fundamentally working on your Akali mechanics. Just watch some very, very good YouTubers, some very, very good pro players. They could, like, just copy how they play, essentially. Look for how they take fights. Also, early game decision making, as I've just explained here, by far the most important thing that you need to work on here. There are definitely improvements that could have been made, and like I said, this game could have been winnable. Like, if I was in this position, I'd like to think that I possibly could have carried this game from this point, because I would, well, from the earlier point, because yeah, you can just see what's going to happen on the map before it happens, just by some simple decision making. So yeah, I mean, thanks for the video, man. Like, if you need any more kind of help with anything, please just ask me. Like, I'm not particularly an Akali expert, but I am a mid lane main, and I've played mid lane for many years in League of Legends. Even in Diamonds now in Wild Rift, I play mid lane. Most fun role in the game, but also the most difficult, and the one where every single decision you make can have very serious consequences if it doesn't go well in the early game. So yeah, well, thank you very much. Like I say, if anybody else has any kind of requests or comments, or they'd like to submit a review for this kind of video series, please just email me on akarenjiyt@gmail.com, and we'll be able to get you involved in the video. Okay, so thank you very much, mate. Thanks for the video, and yeah, good luck on the climb.